But did you know that the King and Prince of Wales earn income from assets all over the UK? From the Oval Cricket Ground to the Merseytoll Bridge, even mining rights and a public toilet.
Hello, Kenneth here. Today, we're diving deep into a scandalous situation that's been brewing right under our noses. Get ready to be outraged because we're about to expose the shocking truth about Charles and William's exploitation of charities and public services. Buckle up, squaddies, because this is going to be a bumpy ride. The Sunday Times and Channel 4's dispatches dropped a bombshell. Their investigations revealed that Charles and William's massive estates, the Duchy of Cornwall and the Duchy of Lancaster, have been raking in millions from, wait for it, cash-strapped charities and public services. You heard that right, squaddies. They're lining their pockets with money meant for those in desperate need. This isn't just some petty cash, folks. We're talking millions upon millions of pounds siphoned away from vital services like the NHS, schools, and even prisons. It's downright disgraceful. Let's talk about the NHS. The National Health Service, or NHS, is a cornerstone of British society. It's a system that has been providing free healthcare to millions of people since its inception in 1948. This beloved institution is the backbone of our country, providing essential healthcare to everyone. From routine checkups to life-saving surgeries, the NHS is there for us in our times of need. But while the NHS struggles with funding cuts and overwhelming demand, the reality on the ground is far from ideal. Hospitals are overcrowded, staff are overworked, and resources are stretched thin. Meanwhile, Charles and William's estates have been profiting from it. These royal estates, with their vast lands and properties, have found a way to capitalise on the NHS's struggles. They've been leasing land to the NHS at exorbitant rates, essentially squeezing every penny they can out of a struggling healthcare system. This practice has put additional financial strain on an already underfunded institution. It's appalling. They claim it's just business, but tell that to the patients who are suffering because of underfunded hospitals and overworked staff. The human cost of this exploitation is immense. This isn't business, squaddies. It's exploitation. The NHS was created to serve the people, not to be a cash cow for the wealthy. And it's not just the NHS. Schools and prisons, two institutions crying out for more funding, are also being exploited by these royal estates. They've been charging exorbitant rents for properties used as schools and prisons, further draining resources from these vital public services. It's like they're deliberately trying to cripple the very institutions that keep our society functioning. The audacity of Charles and William knows no bounds. They live in luxury and opulence while citizens' children are being educated in crumbling schools and our prisons are bursting at the seams. It's a disgrace. This isn't a new problem. For decades, these institutions have been underfunded and neglected. Teachers and prison reform activists have been sounding the alarm for years, but their cries for help have largely fallen on deaf ears. Despite numerous promises from politicians to address these issues, little has changed. Budget cuts and mismanagement continue to plague schools and prisons. The impact on our communities is profound. Children struggle to learn in environments that are not conducive to education, and prisoners are denied the rehabilitation they need to reintegrate into society. Meanwhile, the royal family continues to engage in public relations campaigns, attending charity events and making grand gestures, all while the underlying issues remain unaddressed. The disparity between their public image and the reality of their impact on our public services is stark. Parliamentary inquiry and Duchy merger. The public outcry over these revelations has been deafening. Finally, politicians are starting to take notice. There are now calls for a full parliamentary inquiry into the financial dealings of these royal estates. Some are even suggesting that the duchies should be merged with the Crown estate, which would bring them under greater public scrutiny. It's about time. For too long, Charles and William have operated in the shadows, their financial dealings shrouded in secrecy. The people deserve answers. Wind farm fortunes. But wait, there's more. Remember all that talk about Charles and William being champions of the environment? Well, It turns out they've been quietly amassing a fortune from wind farms. And guess what? They've been exempt from paying certain taxes on these wind farms, thanks to their royal status. So, while the rest of us are struggling with the rising cost of living, they're raking in millions in tax-free profits from renewable energy. Talk about hypocrisy, profiting from the NHS and the Navy. And the hits just keep on coming. It turns out that Charles's Duchy of Cornwall has also been profiting from the Royal Navy. They've been leasing land to the Navy for training exercises, again at inflated prices. It's like they see every public service as an opportunity to line their own pockets. Where is the sense of duty? Where is the compassion? It seems like all they care about is money, 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 energy, hypocrisy. And speaking of hypocrisy, let's talk about their energy efficiency standards. Charles and William love to lecture us about our carbon footprint. But have you seen the size of their palaces? These sprawling estates are energy guzzlers with notoriously low energy efficiency standards. It's easy to preach about saving the planet when you're living in a palace that consumes more energy than a small town. It's time for them to practice what they preach: impact on charities. Now, I know what you're thinking, squaddies. You're thinking, but Kenneth, what about all the good work these royals do for charity? And it's true, they do lend their names to many worthy causes. But here's the thing. Imagine how much more those charities could do if they weren't being financially exploited by the very people who claim to support them. Think about charities like Marie Curie and Macmillan, who provide vital support to those affected by cancer. They rely heavily on public donations. But meanwhile, Charles and William's estates are sitting on a mountain of cash, much of it siphoned from public services. It's a slap in the face to those who rely on these charities. These volunteers and workers pour their hearts and souls into making a difference. They organise events, raise funds, and bring communities together. All to ensure that those in need receive the help and support they deserve. But when the funds are mismanaged or siphoned off, it undermines all their hard work. The public outcry is justified. People demand transparency and accountability. Investigative reports and media coverage bring these issues to light. The shocking truth about Charles and William's exploitation of charities and public services. They talk a big game about duty and compassion, but their actions speak louder than words. It's time for them to be held accountable for their greed. Thank you for tuning in to Royal Telly. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And most importantly, the truth needs to be heard.